Imagine a place where the walls are 2 meters of reinforced concrete, where there is no phone signal, and where the air you breathe was pumped in through ventilation shafts designed to survive a nuclear winter. Most people would call this a tomb. But in 1991, for a few hundred people in Berlin, this was the only place they felt alive. They didn't use the front door. They crawled through rusted drainage pipes and forgotten maintenance hatches just to hear a kick drum. This is the story of the architecture of shadows and how the world's most exclusive dance floors were built in places that technically don't exist. When the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, it didn't just open a border. It revealed a subterranean labyrinth that had been sealed for decades. Between the east and the west lay a death strip. But beneath that strip was a network of bunkers, power tunnels, and forgotten U-Bahn stations. This is where the true history of techno was written. If you look at a map of Berlin today, you see streets and parks. But if you look at the 3D diagrams of what lies beneath Mitte or Kreuzberg, you see a vertical city. Take the original Tresor, for example. It wasn't just a club. It was the giant vault of a former department store called Wertheim. To get in, you didn't just walk downstairs. You had to navigate a series of heavy steel doors and narrow passages. Imagine a stick figure man on your screen right now. To reach the DJ booth, he has to descend into a space that was literally designed to keep people out. The acoustics were a nightmare of metal and stone, but that's exactly what gave the music its industrial, suffocating edge. But the most impossible stories come from the illegal bunker parties of the early 90s. There is a specific location near the former Reichstag where an old air raid shelter became a temporary cathedral of sound. The entrance wasn't a door. It was a ventilation gap in the sidewalk. Think about that for a second. You would see people dressed in black, one by one, literally sliding feet first into a crack in the pavement. In your mind, or on the diagram, follow that person. They slide down a 45-degree concrete chute for about 3 meters. At the bottom, they land in a pitch-black corridor. They have to crawl on hands and knees through a horizontal pipe for another 5 meters before the space finally opens up into a massive vaulted chamber. This wasn't for everyone. If you were claustrophobic, you simply couldn't be part of the movement. It was a physical filter. Only the most dedicated reached the dance floor. This brings us to the Station of Ghosts. Underneath the city, there are several Geisterbahnhöfe, or ghost stations. These were U-Bahn stops that were closed off because they sat on the border. For years, trains from the west would pass through these dark, silent stations in the east without stopping. But after the fall of the wall, some of these became targets for the first massive raves. Imagine the logistics. You have to haul a generator, 2 massive JBL speakers, and crates of vinyl down through an emergency exit hatch that is barely wider than a human torso. If you look at the structural blueprints of a station like Potsdamer Platz, during that transition period, there are maintenance shafts that connect the street level directly to the track beds. The organizers would use pulleys to lower the equipment into the darkness. When the music started, the sound would travel through the tunnels for kilometers. The police could hear the bass from the surface, but they couldn't find the entrance. They would walk over the very spot where 500 people were dancing, looking at their maps, completely unaware that the party was 5 meters directly below their boots. Then there is the legend of the Reactor Rave. In the late 90s, interest shifted toward abandoned industrial giants. There is a facility in Germany, an unfinished nuclear power plant called Kalkar, which was eventually turned into an amusement park. But before that, it was the ultimate forbidden venue. The sheer scale of the cooling towers created an acoustic environment that shouldn't exist. Imagine a stick figure standing at the base of a structure 300 feet tall. When the DJ plays a track, the echo takes seconds to return. It was like dancing inside a giant concrete lung. But why go through this? Why slide through pipes and risk being trapped underground? Because the architecture dictated the culture. In a normal club, you are a customer. In a bunker, reachable only through a ventilation shaft, you are a survivor. You are part of an elite group that decoded the map. Even today, places like Sisyphus or Berghain retain this DNA. Berghain is a former heating plant. The Clock in Amsterdam is an old gas silo. These are places designed for heavy machinery, not for humans. When you walk into the main room of Berghain, you are walking into a space that was built to house massive turbines. The scale makes the human body feel tiny, insignificant. It's a form of architectural ego death. If we look at the coordinates of these sites, they are often located at junction points, places where power lines, water pipes, and old subway tracks meet. They are the non-places of the city. To make a video about this, we have to stop looking at the DJ and start looking at the walls. We have to look at the rust on the pipes and the thickness of the steel. Because in the end, the most curious thing about the history of the party isn't the music. It's the fact that humans found a way to turn a nuclear tomb into a sanctuary. The next time you're walking through a major city and you see a strange metal grate in the ground with a faint thudding sound coming from below, don't just walk past it. Someone might have found a way to fit a sound system through that gap. Someone might be sliding down a chute right now, leaving the world above behind, navigating the rents in the city's facade just to find the beat.